Title: The Suburban Feud. Chapter 1. The Unwanted Gift. Nathan Carter stepped outside one crisp autumn morning, inhaling deeply as he sipped his coffee, ready to take on the day, until his foot landed in something soft, warm, and unmistakably foul. He froze mid-step, his brain processing the horror just before his nose confirmed it: dog poop. Not just any dog poop, fresh and placed deliberately in the center of his meticulously kept lawn. His stomach twisted with disgust as he shook his foot violently, but the damage was done. His once pristine sneaker had become an unfortunate casualty in what would soon escalate into the pettiest war the neighborhood had ever seen. At first, Nathan chalked it up to bad luck, a stray, perhaps, or a careless owner passing by. But then it happened again, and again. The sheer consistency of the mess, always in a new, carefully positioned spot, made it clear this was no accident. Someone was targeting him. Nathan clenched his jaw, scanning the quiet suburban street. Oakwood Lane was an idyllic slice of middle-class perfection, lined with identical homes, each with neatly trimmed hedges and spotless driveways. But beneath the surface of this picture-perfect neighborhood, tension simmered. And Nathan had a strong suspicion about who was behind it. Chapter 2. Caught in the act. Determined to catch the culprit, Nathan set up his doorbell camera, adjusting its angle to cover every inch of his front yard. Then he waited. Days passed. Then, like clockwork, the next pile appeared. Nathan rushed inside, heart pounding as he opened the footage. There she was, Paula Simmons. Not just any Paula. The Paula. The self-appointed queen of the neighborhood watch, known for her endless complaints about everything from kids riding their bikes too fast to the color of mailboxes being too bold. She had the signature bobbed haircut, oversized sunglasses, and the perpetual scowl of someone convinced the world was out to inconvenience her. And her dog, a small, fluffy, yappy creature, was the culprit. But the worst part? She watched. Paula stood there, arms crossed, as if admiring her dog's artistry. Then, with a casual glance around, she walked away as if nothing had happened. Nathan stared at the footage in disbelief. This wasn't negligence. This was deliberate. Chapter 3. The Confrontation. That afternoon, Nathan marched across the street, fists clenched. He didn't bother with pleasantries. Instead, he knocked sharply on Paula's door. She answered within seconds, her ever-present sunglasses resting on the tip of her nose. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone dripping with condescension. Nathan took a deep breath. "Yeah, actually you can. Your dog has been using my lawn as a bathroom for the past week. I caught it on camera. You need to start cleaning up after it." Paula tilted her head, amusement flickering across her face. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "It's just a little dog. A little mess. Nature, you know. Relax." Nathan's eye twitched. Relax? Did she just tell him to relax about stepping in dog poop every morning? It's disgusting. It's rude. And it's happening every day. I have the footage. Do you want to see it? Paula sighed dramatically. "Oh, come on, Nathan. It's grass. What's the big deal? It'll decompose. Think of it as free fertilizer." Nathan clenched his jaw. "I don't need free fertilizer. I need you to be a responsible pet owner." Paula shrugged. "Well, I can't control where my dog goes. Besides, it's not like I'm doing it on purpose." Nathan narrowed his eyes. "Oh, you absolutely are." She smirked. "If you say so." And then, she shut the door in his face. Chapter 4. Retaliation. The next morning, the poop was back. But this time, it wasn't just randomly placed. It was positioned right on the edge of Nathan's driveway, as if Paula had purposefully guided her dog to squat as close as possible to his property line just to taunt him. She wanted a reaction. Fine. She was about to get one. Nathan grabbed a plastic bag, scooping up every last piece of Paula's gifts. But he didn't just collect today's mess. He revisited every previous site, ensuring he had a full week's worth of evidence. Then, he grabbed another bag. And another. That night, under the cover of darkness, he tiptoed toward Paula's house with his carefully curated collection. He took his time, ensuring each piece was placed strategically on her front porch, near the doormat, and along the pathway to her driveway. As a final touch, he used the last handful to write a message on the pavement. "Clean up after your dog." Grinning ear to ear, he returned home and waited. Chapter 5. The War Escalates. The next morning, Nathan sat outside, pretending to check his phone, coffee in hand, as he waited for the show to begin. Paula stepped out in her robe, a steaming mug in hand. She took 2 steps, and then, squelch. Her scream echoed through the neighborhood. "Oh my God, what the—" She lifted her foot, shaking it violently, horror dawning on her face as she realized she was surrounded. Nathan raised his cup in a mock toast. "Good morning, Paula." She whirled toward him, fury in her eyes. "Did you do this?" Nathan smiled innocently. "What makes you think it was me?" "It's just nature, you know? Free fertilizer." Her face turned an unnatural shade of red. "You think this is funny?" He shrugged. "I think it's ironic." Paula stormed back inside. But Nathan knew this wasn't over. Title: The Suburban Feud, Part 2. Chapter 6, Counterattack. Paula was furious. She hadn't been embarrassed like this in years. That afternoon, she marched straight to the HOA president, Charles Whitman, a no-nonsense man with a love for order and an even greater love for paperwork. "Charles, I demand you do something about Nathan Carter," she huffed, dramatically adjusting her sunglasses. Charles sighed. "What did he do now, Paula?" She placed her hands on his desk, lowering her voice as if revealing a state secret. "He vandalized my property. There was dog waste all over my porch." Charles pinched the bridge of his nose. "And do you have proof he did it?" "Well," she hesitated, then stood straighter. "It's obvious, isn't it?" Charles exhaled. "I'll talk to him." That evening, Nathan was trimming his hedges when Charles approached. "Nathan, do you have a moment?" Charles asked, folding his arms. Nathan wiped sweat from his brow. "Sure. What's up?" Charles shifted his weight. "Paula claims you've been retaliating." Nathan smirked. "Retaliating? More like returning what's rightfully hers." Charles chuckled despite himself. "Look, I'm not saying I blame you, but you know how she is. She won't let this go." Nathan sighed, placing his hands on his hips. "Then she shouldn't have started it." Charles raised a brow. "So you admit to it?" Nathan shrugged. "Just giving back what belongs to her." Charles rubbed his forehead. "Nathan, just keep things civil. Last thing we need is a neighborhood-wide incident." Nathan nodded, though he had no intention of backing down. Chapter 7. The neighborhood joins in. Nathan soon realized he wasn't alone in his battle. His next-door neighbor, Linda Pierce, an elderly widow who had lived in Oakwood Lane for 20 years, knocked on his door the next morning. "Paula's been letting her dog use my yard, too," she said, frowning. "I think it's time we teach her a lesson." Nathan grinned. "You have something in mind?" Linda handed him a flyer. It was for the upcoming annual HOA meeting. "If we get enough people to speak up, maybe we can get her fined," she suggested. Word spread fast. By the time the meeting arrived, several neighbors, each with their own Paula grievances, were ready. When the floor was opened for community concerns, Linda stood. "I'd like to address the issue of irresponsible pet ownership." A murmur of agreement spread through the room. "I've had issues too," chimed in Mark Davidson from 2 houses down. "As have I," added Julia Thompson, crossing her arms. Charles cleared his throat. "It seems we have a recurring problem here, Paula." Paula, who had remained silent, scoffed. "You all are acting like it's a crime." "It's against HOA regulations," Charles countered. "And based on the complaints, I'll be issuing a formal warning." Paula's face reddened. "This is ridiculous." "Next time, it's a fine," Charles added. Nathan smirked, enjoying the moment. Chapter 8. The Final Move. For a few days, Paula seemed to lay low. No new surprises on Nathan's lawn. No more smug glances. But he knew better than to let his guard down. Sure enough, one night, his doorbell camera caught Paula standing at the edge of his yard, her dog beside her. She seemed to hesitate before turning back toward her house. The message had been received. The war was over. Nathan celebrated with a backyard barbecue, inviting everyone, except Paula. Linda raised a glass in his honor. "To victory," she said, grinning. Nathan laughed. "To a poop-free lawn." As the neighborhood laughed and ate, Paula watched from her window. Her reign over Oakwood Lane officially ended. The end.